Hi everyone, welcome to today's live. It is a Monday, so we will be doing a fun fold card. And I watched a video in French by one of our artisan design team members from Stampin Up. And she did this really cute Slimline card. Now I switched up the designer series paper in the stamp set, but you get the idea. She did it in a Slimline card, which would fit into a business size envelope. And of course you can use those or you can make your own. Somewhere I have instructions on how to make your own. I will find that for you. But I sat down and kind of messed with the measurements a little bit and found a way to make it a different way and fit into an A2 envelope. So it's going to be your standard size, but it's still going to do that flip effect. This way. So this is the card we're making today, and I can't wait to show you how they're done. Like I said, we're going to make both. I'm going to start out with her version of the Slimline card. So to do that, we need a piece of cardstock that is 4 inches by 11 inches. And then we're going to do some cutting and scoring on that. And then we will decorate it with a bunch of little pieces. So there's lots of cutting involved, but it's not difficult cutting. There's just lots and lots of layers. So there are 2 of these, one for front, one for back, that are 6 1/8 by 2 3/8. And then we have the little strips that are going to go up here. And these are 4 5/8 by 5/8. And there's 8 because there's 4 on the front and then there's 4 on the back. And then over to the sides here, these are 2 1/4 by 2 3/8. And there are 4 because there is front and back, of course. Then we have the designer series paper to layer over it. And as you know, we're going to go down 1/4 of an inch, and actually 1/8 of an inch for this one, but both directions. And I grabbed the wrong ones. There we go. So these are 4 1/2 by 1/2 inch. And again, there's going to be 8. 4 on the front, 4 on the back. And then I put the glasses on this one. And so I needed kind of something to set them on. So I just did a 1/2 inch strip by 6 inch. It's going to go right there. And then, gosh, I'm grabbing the wrong pieces. Should have stuck them in an envelope or something. These pieces, again, there's 4, and they are 2 1/8 by 2 1/4. Okay, so that's just going to be lots of cutting and decorating. Not a big deal. The challenge to this card, and I'm hoping it's not a challenge, but the part that you're here to learn is how we cut and score this so that it's going to do that cool little flip. And so there's some cutting and scoring involved. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stick this into our trimmer. And we're going to score it 4 3/4 of an inch from each edge. Okay. So that's our first thing, is doing that. Now we're going to find the halfway point on here. So half of 4 3/4 is going to be 2 3/8. So that's going to be halfway in between the 2 1/4 and 2 1/2. And I'm going to make a little tick mark with a pencil. And we're going to flip it over and do it on the other side. So again, 2 3/8. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to cut in between this 2 3/8 and the score line up here. So I kind of want to place that in my trimmer to where it's going to hit. Okay, so I'm going to mark this at, it's going to set at 3/4 of an inch. And then I want this blade to come down right on top of that little tick mark. And then we're going up to the score line. I don't want to cut through the score line, but I want to cut up to it. So from here to here. Okay, then I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to cut from the score line up to that little mark. Oops, a little further down this way. Okay, then I'm going to flip it around and we're going to do the same thing. So a lot of this card is kind of mirrored to what it started out as. Okay, so again, starting at that little score line, going up to that little mark. Doing that again down here. Then what I want to do is put it back at the 2 3/8. And I'm going to cut between those two. So I just want to kind of cut it to where it's going to pop loose. And I'm going very slowly, just making sure that I am getting just that and not going too far over. And again, 2 3/8. And then cutting between those two lines. Okay. Now, the important part here is that we have those score lines there, but we do not want to bend them. We want to bend above and below. So we're only scoring or burnishing the score line at the 3/4 on either side. Okay, we're going to do this one. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I am flush, you know, on the top and on the bottom, and then pushing back into my score line. Because the most important thing here is to make sure that we are even top and bottom. And then we basically got that. Okay, so we did not burnish the score lines in the middle at all. Then we want one to go forward and one to go back. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. That's going to make our swing. Okay, so we will do this again with the little one. It's going to be the same idea, just different measurements. But now that I've got my swing cut out, I can erase my little pencil marks and start decorating. So has anybody ever made this type of card before? Or is this something new? I do not have a written tutorial at this time. This is something I just figured out last week. So I do not have a written tutorial yet. I'm working on one because we are working on a third book for my fun folds. I had a really good response to the first 2 fun fold books that I've released, and so I'm working on a third. And I'm sure this one will be in it. And I don't know if you caught what I did, but I got a little too much glue on here. So then what I did is I just stuck a second piece to it and then pulled them apart, and it just gives you a little bit on each instead of having too much on one piece. And of course, if you didn't want to do the layers, you don't have to. You could cut your designer series paper to the sizes that I did for the white and just do the designer series paper and not the matting underneath. You probably couldn't go to a 1/4 inch because it would make this strip a 1/4 inch. So you do have to kind of work with the 1/8. I apologize for that, but because of the way the edges are, this one doesn't. And if I tried to get the extra 1/4 inch up here, it would make the middle very narrow. It wasn't coming together. So we did have to use an 1/8 of an inch in there. And I'm just using liquid glue, which is what I normally do when I am using the 1/8 of an inch edges, because it gives me a little more of what I call wiggle time, so I can move it around. Oops. Looks like I should have gone a little bit more with this one. 2 1/4. Yeah, that should have been 2 5/8, right? 2 3/8. Yep, that should have gone a little more. So those are too narrow. Go bigger. But that's okay. It's just paper. So I'm going to pull out the trimmer, and we're going to cut those to fit. So I need it to be 2 3/8 by 6 1/8. There we go. Sorry, just trimmed the little hair off of there. Well, somebody said they've made a double swing. That's fun. So has everybody stocked up on their last chance items and shopped the clearance rack sale? Now that Stampin' Up! Is not really doing, I mean, they're doing a retirement list, but they are moving it to the last chance list so that we have a little longer to hang out with those products and have those discounts for longer than we normally do. They have also changed up things a little bit where now we have some carryover designer series paper, which I thought was a fun idea, because it must take those designers a lot of effort to create a new designer series paper. So the fact that we can play with them for longer is fun. And I'm sure by now everybody is aware of the new rewards program. Stampin' Up! Has changed the way they do their Stampin' Rewards. They're not doing them like a party anymore like we used to. Now everybody gets rewarded for every order that they place that is $20 or more. They will earn a 10% reward that will be credited to their online account. So you must have an online account because that's where they're stored. And then you can store them for up to a year and save up for something big, or you can use them on your very next order. But it makes it so you don't have to have a party or place a really large order. You can get rewarded for smaller things. And then you also have my rewards program where I have a tracking form on my website, but you collect what I call crowns. And so for each qualifying purchase, you get a crown. And then when you collect 10 of them, you get a free shopping spree. So you get kind of double rewarded there because Stampin' Up! Rewards you, and then I reward you for shopping with me. And that is, of course, in addition to the normal customer appreciation PDF, which this month it is the Cheers and Sips bundle. There's 7 written tutorials in that by myself and 6 of my Stampin' friends. And I also send you some pieces to a card to craft along with me during my live the following month. So just rewards all over the place. Okay, we're getting there, I promise. Just lots of pieces to this one. You can see how it's not difficult. It's just lots of pieces. Also, we just released our annual catalog and the May online exclusives, and we've already started getting sneak peeks at what's going to be the online exclusives for July. So there is more product coming. And you can either choose to stay a customer and buy that at full price, or you can sign up as a demonstrator. You get the starter kit, and you can either make a business out of it or just shop at a discount for yourself. But right now, they're running a special that you get to pick out $165 of product of your choice and pay just $99 with free shipping. And then you get that minimum of a 20% discount through at least the end of September would be the end of your first full quarter. And then we have what we call a pending month. So you would have October to make up for it if you didn't meet your quarterly minimum. But you would be able to purchase out of the new online exclusives a month early and also the fall catalog. So if you were excited about the Christmas catalog coming, you would be able to shop out of that a whole month early compared to what we can shop as a customer. Okay, so I went ahead and I just kind of fussy cut some of these little drinks out of the designer series paper. Now these ones that are just the glass with the liquid in it are die cuts, fit those, and we'll cut those out exact. but the ones that have with the little things in them, these I had to fussy cut out with scissors. But that was okay. Then what I wanted to do was place them in here. And I'm just kind of doing an assortment. I have, you know, multiple glasses here. As I said, I cut a bunch of them out. So that I would have several to choose from. And then if they are too high, I can always cut them shorter. See, these ones I'm cutting on purpose, but this here and this one here, these were all already short. Because they were at the edge of the designer series paper. Because when they print it, of course, you know, some of the pattern runs off the edge, and I try to save those pieces and use them on an edge rather than throw them away. Again, I want to be kind of thin with my glue. And if you have a little bit of excess glue, we have these adhesive removers, which are just little erasers that will lift off the glue that is excess on your card. So don't worry if I'm making a mess with my glue, because that is easily cleaned up. And that works on the liquid glue and the seal. So I'm going to leave this one open in the back for writing a message, and then on the front, I'm going to stamp cheers in the middle here. So I'm bringing in Very Burst, because that is the color of the cardstock I'm working with. And we all know that that's one of Stampin' Up's best features, is that then when they create a color, the ink and the cardstock and the ribbon and the markers and everything matches exactly. There we go. There is our slimline version of this card. So this is the larger. And now we're going to make the A2 version, which is our standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 version. So for that one, again, going to be similar to what we did before. It's just going to be different sizing. So this is starting out with 4 1/4 by 7 1/2. To keep track of what I'm working on here. Okay. I cut those new pieces of the basic white, and then I mixed them up with my pieces for this card. So the one that's going to go in the middle here, our basic white is going to be 3 5/8. Let's see, 2 5/8. Sorry about that. By 4 1/8. So there's 2 of those, front and back. And then the designer series paper I'm putting on the front is 2.5 by 4.5. And then I have 4 pieces of basic white that are going to go here, front and back. So these are 2 5/8 by 1.5. And then the designer series paper to go over that would be 1 3/8 by 2.5. So just 1/8 of an inch smaller. Again, 4. And then our strips at the top here are going to be 3 1/8 by 5/8. So these are 3 by 1/2 inch. And again, there's going to be 8 because there's front and there's back. Okay, so that's all our sizing. And then we're going to go to our trimmer and we're going to cut like we did the other one. Same kind of theory, just different measurements. Okay, so for this one, we are going to put it in on the long side and we're going to come in what am I here? 5/8 twice. So 3 1/4. Sorry. So we're scoring at 3 1/4 from this side and from this side. Okay, so that's giving us our 1 inch in the middle. And then we're going to make the mark at 1 5/8. We're going to do that on both sides, and it's just basically halfway between the score line and the edge. Then we're going to set this in our trimmer, and once again at 3/4 of an inch. So I'm on the 3/4 over here, and then I'm setting my blade down and cutting from that 1 5/8 mark up to the score line, jumping over that 1 inch, and then going from the score line up to this 1 5/8 mark up here. And we're going to flip it and do the same thing. Line it up at 3/4 of an inch. Go from 1 5/8 to the score line. Skip over from the score line down to the 1 5/8 over here. Oops, I went a little too far. But what we do now is cut between the 2 marks. Okay, so I cut a little too far. I'm not going to worry about it because we are on camera, but that's why you want to kind of be careful. And there we are with that. So again, like we did the other one, we're going to burnish the score line top and bottom, but not on the part in the middle. Okay, so now we have our swing mechanism. And now all we need to do is decorate. So hopefully this was easier than you thought it would be. So who's going to make this card, and are you going to do the larger version or the smaller version? I'm curious. Oh, Angie says she's going to make this card for her granddaughter. That's great. Just looking back to see if there's any questions. I don't have a written tutorial yet. I am working on one. It will probably be in book 3. Okay, not seeing any other questions. Kat's going to make the smaller version. Fun. Janice is going to make both. Awesome. Janet's going to do the A2. I'm so glad you guys are going to try this. I think you'll really like it. I like watching videos in foreign languages because I kind of pick up on some folds that haven't quite hit the US yet. So I hope that I'm doing some folds that aren't all over the place. I'm not going to say this is the only swing card out there, but like I said, I try to find things that are a little bit different. If you see something out there and you want to know how to do it, even if it's in a foreign language, please send me a link. I would love to figure it out and come back and share it with you. You can see how with the liquid glue, I have a little time to wiggle the paper around and make sure that I am centered where I want to be. I'm kind of watching the edges, that I'm kind of the same here as over here. And then I'm making sure that I am flush with the top and the bottom of my piece in the middle. Since I don't have, an edge to go with up there, I did on the piece in the middle, so just making it even. And then centering the designer series paper in that. Probably should have stamped on the white before I adhered it, because I did do some stamping on the back side. For the front, I used some punches. You could also, of course, use dies and put a nice shape in the middle of that. Sorry. I had a tickle in my throat. For this card, I'm using the beautiful butterflies. I'm going to go ahead and put hello on the front, butterfly on the back, and then happy birthday, it's time to celebrate. You've probably seen me do this a lot, but I use my grid paper as a guideline to lay out my stamps. And then when I set the block down on top, I align that with the grid paper as well, hoping to keep everything nice and square so that I stamp straight. So I got lucky and all the stamping on the back came out straight, so I don't have to worry about cutting another piece. But I always suggest, don't always follow my own advice, but I always suggest you stamp before adhering to the card. In case you're not happy with it, you can flip it over and stamp on the other side and then glue that to your card. You know, if you put a little too much glue, you want to spread it out. Put the two back sides together. You can move it down to your card. This is a really good idea to do this, you know, backing the two of them together when you're gluing designer series paper, because being thinner, it's more sensitive to the liquid glue and might have a more of a chance of warping when you go to adhere it to your card if it's got too much glue. So by doing that, you have half as much glue and less of a chance of warping. Then I have to be careful here because there is a direction to my designer series paper, and I want to make sure that I have my flowers growing upright. The other paper I used was the celebratory Sips designer series paper with the Cheers and Sips bundle, and this is Irresistible Blooms designer series paper and the Beautiful Butterflies stamp set. Almost done, and I do have what I am working on for Thursday. Thursday we're going back to our simple stamping, but it's still going to be a fun fold. So I have that on my YouTube and Facebook already scheduled as an upcoming live. And then I have the card I can show you at the end here after we get our front sentiment on this card. Hopefully everybody is subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you do that because it will alert you, you know, when I have new videos. It'll show up in your feed. And then if you want to actually have it like beep you and send you a notification when I actually hit the go live button, then you want to go to the section where it has the upcoming lives, and there's a little button that you can say notify me, and it's supposed to send you a little notification that is pushed out and lets you know that I'm currently live. So if you wanted to watch as a repeat, or you wanted to be notified when I'm live, there are options for both. And of course, I totally appreciate it when you like and share the video. I'm going to find out something new to do with Prize Patrol. I've had quite a few go unclaimed, and then a few get lost in the mail. So obviously I'm still going to mail them, but I have to make sure that they're not the super thick fun fold ones. I have a feeling those are the ones getting lost because you have to pay additional postage and tell them to hand machine it, because if they put it through the postal service and it gets in the machines, it could get jammed up. So I apologize if some of the cards are not arriving. They are definitely all getting mailed. Obviously, I don't mail them all exactly that day. I might save up and do 2 weeks at a time, but they are mailed. I have no control over it once they leave my house because I send them on a regular postage stamp, and that does not have tracking. I am using the 2-inch and the 1 3/4 inch circle punches for my focal point here. And then I'm going to stamp hello in the white one. And I'm not popping this up on dimensionals. Number one, so it's easier to mail, but two, because when it does the little flip, I don't want it to get caught on itself. And I worried if maybe if I had put that on dimensionals, it might hit. It might not, but I figured better safe than sorry. I went sideways again. Bummer. Sorry about that going sideways. Hopefully that was just recently. But we did finish both of our cards. We did, our first one was the A2 version. So this will fit in a Slimline. This is a Slimline card, will fit in a, that's distracting me. Will fit in a number 10 business size envelope, or we can create our own envelope for this, and I will put out measurements for how to do that. And then we did the A2 version that will fit into a regular A2 envelope. So hopefully you love those and you give it a try. Let's see. I have the card for next time. Sorry. The card we're doing next time is this one here. So it's a corner fold card. And this one qualifies for the Stamping Made Simple because there are no die cuts involved. It's all straight cuts. And it's just designer series paper and cardstock and some stamps and ink. But then this one here, I use some die cuts on. So you can see how it can switch it up if it's die cuts or just straight cuts. But that's what we are making on Thursday. So hopefully I see you then. If I don't, I'll see you back on Monday for another fun fold card that's a little more advanced. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.